Normally, I do start off with the question myself. However, I did see Ian's question, and I think it's fantastic. And probably it's a great way to start off the Q&A as well. So I'm going to start with your question, Ian. Unless you want to just jump on the mic yourself. If you want to ask in person, then by all means. If not, I'm going to just read it out for Nick. What would you prefer?
Okay, perfect.
Okay, so I'll just read it out in that case. So Ian is asking, could you share your opinions on how AI would change the job scope of trainees and junior associates? And what are the ways a trainee and junior associate can remain a valuable asset to the company? Which is a fantastic question, and it really is targeting exactly the point of today's workshop. So go ahead, Nick.
Brilliant, thank you. Very good question. Yeah, as Nicolette was alluding to there, I think probably what you'll find is remaining a valuable asset is being a little bit ahead of the curve in that sense with AI. Now, I will share with you, it's probably no surprise really that a lot of lawyers and fee earners in general are quite time poor generally across their working day. They don't have a huge amount of time to experiment with these new technologies unless they're specifically targeted to. Now, I'd say that that's a point where you might find actually, well, I have got some free time whilst you're kind of in this stage of your studies where you can really get to grips with some of this AI work in a bit more depth than they can. Again, you might find that actually some of the workforce, shall we say, don't have brilliant AI skills at this point. It's still so new. And again, when they're kind of in their own workflow, it's not always easy to bring that in. A lot of people probably still will be of the opinion of, well, I know how to do it, so I'm just going to do it. And then, I'll get to AI another time. That's where your knowledge would be the asset there. If you come into these kinds of teams, you could then help them understand it. You can then kind of be that almost a mentor to them in some ways of getting to learn the ropes, as it were, of AI. And I can imagine it's going to get to a point where any of these roles that are being advertised really will look for AI literacy, at least, as one of the prerequisites. Hope that answers your question, Ian.
Thank you, Nick. And also, just leading on from this question, how can we best prepare, in particular us who are joining the workforce now in this law landscape? How do we stay atop all these developments? Everything is happening so quickly. It's sometimes it's a little bit too fast. Sometimes your head kind of like spins a little bit, because also we're studying at the moment. Most of us have full-time jobs as well. What are the practical steps that we can take right now to train ourselves, so that we can show interest to potential employers, and also to just put ourselves in the best position to be the best assets that we can for our future law firm?
It's a good question. Yeah, I think again, finding some time to experiment with it, I think, is quite key. So again, the more you experiment with it, the more you'll understand it. I think it's probably fair to say, and use it to its own advantage as well. You might not have access to all of these, kind of practice documents, shall we say. Just ask AI to create one for you. Just create me an agreement that I can then work on, or create me, a contract that I can then put through some AI workflow. You'll be surprised how much you can do with nothing, if I put it that way. You can really kind of apply, or even just give me some good use cases in a legal context that I can practice. And again, it will probably suggest for you anyway some areas to work on. And that and communities. This is obviously a brilliant example of that. This in itself is a community, and you are all learning about AI in it. Now, that's really your best chance of staying on top of things, I think. It's just making sure that you're within these communities, contributing to it, but just having sight of it, because it's really these kinds of communities that will give you that information, where it's obviously going to be very difficult just to check every now and then, okay, what's new, on your own. Better to have it with people.
Yeah, that's a great point actually, to just to have this community really and just keep engaged and stay engaged. Or obviously just attending webinars, that's great, but also just making sure that you just check on LinkedIn, keep reading articles and so on and so forth. And I think actually Simmons and Simmons is a fantastic place for that as well, because I've seen loads of articles on their website, and of course like this future internship that will be opening on the 15th of October. That is just such fantastic thing to have, in particular for us as well. So it's super exciting for us in particular, our little group here, our little community, but also for future trainees as well. So that's fantastic. Thank you very much for that. So I'll just go ahead with the next question from Zoe Dales. Do you find, so she's asking, do you find that law firms are prioritizing the use of AI? And is there a general sense of enthusiasm around it? Well, definitely. Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, there's is the an interesting way to phrase that as well. Is there a general? I'm going to do this kind of in reverse, really. Yes, there is a general sense of enthusiasm from most people. I think it's probably fair to say. Yeah, I think some people, it's a big ask, or probably seems like a big ask, especially if you have been a fee earner in a position for decades, let's say, and you've always done things a certain way. For those people, I think, it's quite a challenge, I suppose, to really engage with a completely different way of working. But what I would say is that it helps to have a top-down approach. And what I mean by that in real terms is leadership being enthusiastic about it. It's great, obviously, to have the more kind of junior staff show perhaps the more experience, or the longer tenure staff, how to use it. But if the enthusiasm is coming more from the leaders of the firm, that's obviously going to generate quite a lot more drive, I think, generally speaking. And to answer the first part of the question, yes, absolutely. A lot of firms, I would probably say, are more or less in that same bucket there of really pushing the use of AI to put them forward as competitive. I think that's the real key word there, is making sure that they are competitive, obviously against all the other firms that are using AI as well.
That's great, thank you. Jack, I will let you, say your question there, because you're on the main stage. Your mic is off mute, so you can just start talking now. Ask the question.
Perfect. Thanks so much for the talk, Nick. I've been working on a project with my previous employer where we were doing basically an automation using a platform called make.com. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it. And it allows you to basically bring in lots of different tools that are out there and integrate them together to create a sort of one-piece automation, which was great. And something that we started to worry about was, after we'd spent all this time putting it all together and watching this system function and thinking of everything, was with the space, evolving so rapidly and different platforms coming to rise and other ones falling, how do you come to think about which ones you can sort of depend on, and what are the risks if we were noticing that the platform we were hosting our automation through, if that was to go under per se, then we would we would lose everything that we had sort of put into it, and also the control that they have in in terms of if they were to raise their prices, that kind of thing. So I guess my question was sort of more around, are most law firms looking to build their own tools, or are they sort of relying on external platforms and that kind of thing?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, because I wouldn't say every firm is investing in internal AI tools. I think there are definitely some that are just happy using the more kind of off the shelf AI tools, which are obviously heavily regulated and rigorously tested. But at the same time, yeah, there are several firms I can think of anyway. I'm sure there are more that are investing in their own internal ones. Obviously, you could probably see from their perspective, it's a safer bet to an extent. Not to say that the external ones wouldn't be, because again, like I said, they're all heavily regulated. But if you're looking to create something that will have longevity, I suppose it's not a bad idea to look internally. But it's very costly, as you could imagine, to have that within a firm. It's a lot of manpower to be able to produce something like that. So it's probably to some extent a case of capacity and appetite as well. But certainly there are many firms that are just using off the shelf but specific legal ones. I dare say there are even some that are using some LLMs that aren't necessarily legal specific, but just so they can kind of cater for it anyway, just so they can say we've got some Gen AI within our firm.
Brilliant. Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you, Nick. Any more questions? Would anybody like to jump in for any more questions? We can take a couple more if you'd like. Oh yeah, okay, yeah. Session, go ahead. I think you're able to unmute. Oh yeah. Great, go ahead.
Awkward putting my hand up on a video call, but thanks very much for the talk, Nick. That was really interesting. I think you touched on something that was quite pertinent. Is you see a lot of these cases where notably judges, for example, use Gen AI in judgments and to find citations. There's a lot of hallucination. Do you think there's a role that the judiciary need to play more, maybe stringently, in terms of introducing their use of AI in a manner that's slightly more or less problematic in the role that they have in setting the standard for what we as kind of aspiring legal professionals and legal professionals expect from AI? I imagine our generation are probably slightly more at ease with the idea of introducing new novel technologies into our work life, but there's a generation before us that probably are slightly more reticent, and there's a reality to the fact that those are the people making a lot of the decisions at the top of the law firms, naturally. So what role do you see legislative reform maybe, or other interventions from the judiciary playing in facilitating trust in a system that necessarily needs to develop in order for us to use tools and be more efficient?
It's a good question, yeah. And I know I've said that to everything so far, but they have all generally been really good questions. But no, I think with that one, regulation is obviously really key to that. I think, yeah, making sure that the use of AI tools within firms in that way are obviously done correctly. And I dare say as well with circumstances like that, as we've kind of alluded to, it's just poor AI literacy, frankly. It's not necessarily the tool's fault. It's more the person in the driver's seat, really. I think that really does kind of hinder back on the whole adoption side to an extent, really. And I think, as you were alluding to there anyway, there is a generational gap. I think a big struggle at the moment with probably a lot of firms is bridging that gap and making sure that, again, these people, and I will say it's not always a generational thing. Sometimes it's just the person, just their inclination. But it's ensuring that they have all the opportunities, I think, to engage, and making sure that AI literacy is a standard across the firm, as opposed to just the new guys. It's just something that everyone has and everyone should be at a certain level with. So again, I think situations like that are easily avoided as long as you know how to use the tools and use them properly. Hope that answers the question. So sorry, it's a bit of an airy one, but it's a hard one to comment on from my perspective.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Session. Any more questions for Nick? Yeah, go ahead, Danny.
Once again, thank you so much for the talk, Nick. And I was wondering if AI takes over much of the routine work like drafting and summarizing. I mean, I get that this is something that affects us as future legal professionals, as individuals, but I was also wondering, more at the institutional level, could AI reshape the way a traditional training contract model would work at a law firm? Thank you.
Hard for me to comment on, I think, on that one, Daniel. But I think things are moving fast at the moment, and I'm sure with things like the internship, that's just going to show that this is a pretty heavy consideration for junior roles at the moment. And I'm sure, again, kind of given what we looked at on one of those points, the way in which tasks are done are somewhat evolving, that will probably translate to some extent across some of these the expectations around some junior roles. Again, I will say though that you really do need someone in the driver's seat for this to work, though. I think, again, the Gen AI obviously has all the capabilities to do this, but it can't do it on its own. There needs to still be someone there driving it and shaping it effectively. And again, it's not to say its answers are always right. There always needs to be that human element to ensure that it's giving valid output, correct output, and that it's been processed in the right way. So yeah, tricky one to answer, but I hope that helps in some way.
That's great. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Daniel, for your question as well. And I think that kind of just like leads on a little bit to a question that I had, and I think I've talked to you about this before, Nick. And my concern with AI has always been, but I think it at some point probably was a little bit misplaced. Whether because of AI we would still, as trainees, as just newly starters in this field, would we still have this a potential to just work our way through and be able to be like the best at drafting, the best at research, if we're going to just pass it on to AI, even with the prompts and everything? Would that make us better future lawyers or worse future lawyers if we rely on AI? And of course, you obviously you mentioned that you still have to do your research just to make sure that the outputs that the AI is putting through are that correct, that the research is correct, and so on and so forth. But from more of a hardcore skill, are we in a position to be better at it because of AI, or not so much because of AI? What are your opinions on this?
I think with that, again, you have to know how to draft to know it's drafting correctly, if that makes sense. So I think, again, it's that kind of human oversight that really does play such a critical role in that. So, I mean, you could kind of see that in a way that as you're kind of doing this routinely through Gen AI, you'll get to just adapt that in a different way, I think. So you'll be drafting more so, obviously kind of leaning on the AI side, but then you'll just be kind of honing a different skill for it, I think, in general. But having the skill to do it in the first place is paramount, effectively. And I'll give you a slightly different example for that just probably more so draw on my own experiences. And I'm sure anyone can connect with this one. Getting AI to create a presentation for you. Now, you might have assumed that I used AI to create that presentation, and to be honest, you'd be right. But what I would say to that is that I didn't just say, create me a presentation, and it did it, and I used it. Not at all, not even close. what it was able to do was give me a really kind of basic framework, and then I more or less kind of filled in all the gaps and put all the points in that were useful and kind of really shaped it from there. And I think again that just goes to show that AI can't do my job just yet. I mean, you could probably make like a robot, Nick, and that would be fine. But at the moment, as it currently stands, I still need to really be kind of, checking it, making sure it actually works, in terms of what it's producing, and then being that person to drive it as opposed to just letting it drive itself. Hope that gives some context to it. But yeah, I think
Yeah.
again, you always need that element.
That human element, yes. And that's one of the things, after having the discussion with you, and of course after this workshop, I think myself and probably a lot of other people are a little bit more at ease when it comes to that, because there's been so many headlines in the news with entry level positions are going to be wiped out because of AI and and everything else, which is really not the case. It really is not the case. We just need to know how to adapt for the future, and we're very appreciative that you're with us tonight to share your perspective with it. And also, of course, we're very appreciative to Simmons and Simmons for having this future internship opening. That is just fantastic. So for anybody who'd like to sign up for that, I did put the link in the chat box as well. Okay, so do feel free to just click on it, and the applications are opening on the 15th of October. So they're not just yet. Okay, so that will be on the 15th of October. Any other questions before we wrap up? Because we literally have just probably like 5 more minutes and that's it. So if not, we can just wrap it up for this evening. Oh yes, go ahead, Ruth. Sorry, yes.
Okay, yeah, just a quick question. I'm doing the bar training course, so it's a bit different from training contract and everything. But I just wanted to know, Nick, thank you so much for all the information that you've shared, especially with the filters like that. It really helps in order to use AI for your benefit. But do you have any tips, or I guess, insight from maybe colleagues based on those doing, or rather those who are barristers, how they have used AI or see how it is changing their work, basically?
I don't think I'd have anything specific at this point, but what I would say, Ruth, is I would just encourage you to research it. I think it's probably best. Undoubtedly, there'll be some work that's been put into that one. I don't know of anything specifically on my side, but yeah, I think there will definitely be something that you can pick up online that will, give you some cases.
Thank you. Zoe, you can go ahead with your question. You're still muted.
We still can't hear you. No, let me just see if I can unmute you on my end.
Are you seeing like
No, you have to. No, there we go.
Are you seeing a mic button at the bottom of your screen?
There should be a mic there. So before, if you Zoe, if you just hold on, try and figure it out. It should be on your screen. Oh, you can type it. Yeah, you can type it as well. That's not a problem. And then in the meantime, we'll.
Nicoletta, you're muted.
Oh, sorry about that. So yeah, so I was just saying, like, we're gonna go to Stephanie's question while Zoe just types in her question or just figures out how to unmute herself. Stephanie's asking, what would be the best way to show AI skills and literacy when applying for graduate programs in training contract applications?
Yeah, so I'm just trying to understand the question a bit there. Yeah, the best way to show any sort of literacy when applying. Do you mean that in the context of how you write it on a CV, or more how best you can kind of prep for it?
It's probably how to probably show it best on applications. Probably, maybe I would probably assume something like just say that you've attended seminars like that. Apply for for the position with Simmons and Simmons.
Yeah, that's kind of what I meant. Like, would you just put official things on there rather than just, like you said earlier, about like using it to like practicing on it? Would there be anything official that I need to put on to?
Yeah, sorry, perfectly understand it now. Yeah, it's a good point really, because there's not a huge amount out there at the moment in terms of like official certification around these areas. But I will say you can go on to Microsoft and you can get Microsoft certifications for free around AI. And that's more specifically Copilot. But what I would say is that a lot of firms using Copilot at the moment, and that's a very kind of professional services kind of based one as well. So that's got a lot of kind of like general applications to it that I'm sure people will look for. So that's an easy win. Just to look out for that one in future. Outside of that, I think I'm sure with most of these applications, there'll be a bit about your kind of more, let's say, kind of general day-to-day hobbies and interests. That's probably a good place to explain a bit about what you've done with it so far and kind of what lengths you've kind of taken to get to understand it. So I think that even that would be useful to show that you have engaged and that you've got to understand to at least any level really how best to apply and how to use it. And there's a lot out there, I think, as well. That I have no idea the number of LLMs at this point, but there's more than I could even count, I'm sure. And they all do something a little bit different as well. So I think if you try some experiments as well, that's useful. Again, quick example. I used to always use one that was via a minstrel called reshape, which was like the basically the French equivalent of ChatGPT. Don't ask me why, but that's what I went for, and I thought it was really, really good and really, really useful until ChatGPT brought out GPT-5, which is like a much improved model for the LLM, and Reshape couldn't compete with it. Basically, it hasn't got that kind of same level of integration for it yet. So I did jump ship eventually and kind of join the crowd, as it were, with ChatGPT. But that just goes to show they're evolving at kind of different rates with some of them, and it's good to get sometimes a bit of an all-rounding to see what some offer different than others.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you, Stephanie. Now, just one last question, Nick, if that's okay, and then we won't keep you any longer. It's from Zoe. Zoe's mic is not working, so that's okay, Zoe, no problem. She's asking, she's saying there's definitely a mix of excitement and anxiety around the use of AI in the legal field. Absolutely. For aspiring commercial lawyers, what do you think the key implications would be? And do you think it's something we should see more as an opportunity or a threat? I know this at this stage, humans are still needed to sense check, but I'm curious about what do you think this might look like 5 years from now? It's a great question, Zoe.
So I'm just reading that back through again, just so I can fully
Yeah.
understand the yeah, it's a good point, really. Opportunity or threat. I mean, I think in the here and now, it's a huge opportunity, definitely. And I think the quicker you can really jump onto that, the better, really. But as with anything, I mean, and I'm afraid it's going to be quite a broad answer, Zoe. Is probably a lot of my answers have been really. But I think adaptability is absolutely key for these things. Just being able to kind of not exactly roll with the punches, but to quickly adapt to what the next thing is, because I'm sure people had these kinds of conversations in the mid-90s about the internet. I think it's that kind of very similar, almost on par with how much of a generational change that was to everyday life. And the best thing for people at that point as well was to be adaptable. You know, if you were a secretary that you know, did everything on an old typewriter or something, then the internet comes out and suddenly all these weird and wonderful things that you can suddenly do. Just be adaptable, and then you'll soon be able to join the curve, as it were. And I think it's very much the same thing with Gen AI at the moment, and see where it takes you. I think threats. There's threats to everything, isn't there? Really, I think it's fair to say. I mean, even my job within training has seen threats from various different things. Really, I mean, I used to make a living doing classroom training for 6 hours a day, 5 days a week. Would you believe? Luckily, that doesn't really happen very often these days, because that was quite grueling. But obviously, online meetings like this really swept away with a lot of that stuff. And I still have a job as effectively a trainer in adoption, because I've adapted. I've adapted to be more of an online personality. I've also adapted the content that I'm training. So I think really it's just that adaptability piece. Just be mindful of is that there's going to be changes. There'll be more changes as well. But as long as you're able to join at the right times and just give yourself a good amount of research into these areas, that will give you the best possible chance.
Thank you so much, Nick, and thank you everybody for joining us. That was a fantastic session tonight. Before we wrap up as well, just to let you all know that I've popped a little feedback survey in the chat box there. If you've got 2 minutes to spare, just to fill it out, just to let us know what you thought about tonight's event, and also what you'd like to see in the future from us, that would be fantastic. And we truly hope that you loved today's evening session, and we hope to see you again soon at our next event, no doubt. And thank you again, Nick, very much for joining us tonight. It was fantastic.
Pleasure. Lovely to
Thank
meet you
you.
all. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.